Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the paint and repair on a hard body. First off, I'm going to start by knocking down the putty I put in on the last video. We're going to use a 320 grit sandpaper just to get it knocked down quickly, and we'll gradually move up to, I believe, a 600 to kind of smooth out the edges. I put on the putty kind of heavy just so we could get any of the big scratches and that dent on the front nose piece filled in. Okay, here I'm wrapping the sandpaper around my putty applicator. That gives me a nice hard straight edge to go across the nose. That way I get rid of all the putty except for what is in the dent. You'll see later in the video how I get it sanded down to the plastic, and you can actually still see the putty filling the low spot in the nose. Okay, here I'm switching to the 600 grit. This is just to knock off all the clear coat that's on it, get the surface kind of roughed up to have the primer stick to it a little better. I'm also using it to blend the edges and get everything ready for the primer. Remember to continually wipe your surface off. It's always a lot easier to see a clean surface and what you're working with. You can see on the nose here where the putty has filled that dent in. You'll notice after it's primed and painted that there's the dent's gone. It looks good. Start with a light coat. I believe in total I put 3 coats of primer on this. Went ahead and decided to put a heavy base of primer on because most of it's going to get sanded off, and the leftover primer will fill all those fine scratches up and just the little imperfections in the paint. What I'm doing now is I'm just blending all those hard lines created by the tape. As you can see, they're kind of blended into the roof. Once I start taping it off, you'll see how it'll all come together. My key objective here is just to make sure there's no difference between the primer and the actual paint that's already there once the painting is done. There's another good point. It's always good to have the air blow off to get all that dust and buildup off of there. It's always better to wipe it all down, blow it off, and make sure you don't end up with any contaminants in your paint. I really like using this tape with the plastic on it. It saves on tape, saves on time, and it just makes for a lot quicker paint prep. Now the reason I'm taping so much further down than the roof is um, having that bit of paint in between the tape and the roof will help it to blend in a little bit better as I continue to paint and lay down layers of paint. The most challenging part of the blitzer beetle paint is the hood. It's got those two indentions on the hood, and as you can see here, I'm just taking a pencil and I will cut the lines out and make a stencil out of it. And the reason I'm doing this is the hard edge of those indents make a perfect place to transition from new paint to old paint, and it's practically unnoticeable. I'll start out with a very light coat just to get a good feel for how the paint is spraying and how it's laying down. I'll let that coat set for 5-10 minutes just so it kind of flash dries a little bit. And you'll see as we go, I progressively put on a heavier and heavier wet coat, and that is just to make sure that the paint will lay down nice and flat and smooth, and it kind of limits the amount of orange peel that gets into your paint. On this wet coat, I'm trying to keep it to where it's about 75% overspray, and that way it lays down a nice even coat and smooths out very well. Be careful though with a wet coat. If you get it too heavy, it's going to run on you. Also, while painting, you want to try to follow the contours of what you're painting, and that way you maintain a nice even coat over all surfaces. After about 15 to 20 minutes, I put on the final heavy coat. I'm still keeping about the 75% overspray on it. And this, you can see I'm going a different direction across the hood, and this is just going to ensure that if I did miss any spots and it's a little light in some areas, that spot does get covered up. As you can see, it turned out really nice. It's kind of a downside is that this will all be wet sanded and smoothed out and get any imperfections out before I lay the stripes down. Once the stripes are laid down, then I will cover the stripes up and respray it again and bring that gloss up before it gets clear coated. Kind of hard to see through here, but if you look, you can see where the tape lines are. Another reason why it's going to be wet sanded is to blend those lines out before the final spray. We will just speed through the wet sanding. I usually start with about a 2000 grit and work my way up to a 12,000 just to smooth everything out. Here I'm trying to get all those tape marks out, the paint lines from the tape. You can see how I'm using the edge of the sandpaper. Take your time. You don't want to cut into any of your body edges. Just take your time and work the paint and get ready for the final goal, which is to lay stripes in the final color on the car. Continually switching to a lighter and lighter grit sandpaper, you can actually watch as the roof starts to get some of its shine back, and really the main goal is to put that final coat of paint on there and have a nice smooth surface for the paint to adhere to. And again, here I'm just getting rid of those lines that was left by where the tape was. Take your time. As you can see here, there's a lot of grooves that you really need to get into to get that out, so when you put that final spray on, they don't shine through. Again, always working those edges, taking my time, getting things smoothed out. It's all these small steps that you take now which will really shine through in the end on your paint. Ran into a small issue which I'm working on now. Is there was a tape line that went a lot deeper than I had previously noticed, so this whole section back here was pretty much sanded down to the primer, and it's not that big of a concern because I was going to put a final coat of blue on it once the stripes are done anyway, so it's just one more step. These things happen, they come up. Just take your time and work your car, you'll get it right. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. All the prep work for the stripes are done. In the next video, I'll show you the laying out of my stripes, the painting of it, the final prep work for the final coat of paint, and the clear coat. Thanks for watching.